top stories this evening, sponsored by Courts, bringing value home. Adriana Young's funeral postponed. Dr. Dexter TODD is now the lead attorney. International community urges peace amid rising tensions in Guyana. Nursing assistant wanted by the Guyana Police Force over false claims over Adriana Young's autopsy. And Dr. Adams criticizes state over oil spill bill, dubbing it a SHAM. HGP Nightly News begins now. Good evening to our viewers here in Guyana and online. I'm Travis Chase with the Monday, May 5 edition of the HGP Nightly News. We have what you need to know this evening. We tell you first up that there have been no confirmed reports of a second autopsy for Adriana Young. Her funeral, though, has been postponed, while a top criminal lawyer has been retained by the family. Here is more. Citing the need for space and clarity, the family of 11-year-old Adriana Young, whose body was found in the swimming pool of the Doubleday Hotel on April 25, has decided to postpone the child's funeral. The funeral was scheduled to take place on Monday morning. Young's mother, Amicia Simon, said on Facebook on Monday that, quote, due to ongoing matters and our family's need for space and clarity as we grieve, we have made the painful decision to postpone Adriana's funeral today, unquote. According to Simon, a new date for the funeral of Young will be provided soon. The mother, in a statement to the press, said the decision to postpone the funeral was difficult, but the need for peace was among the key reasons. Quote, please know this was not easy, but we want to honor her with the peace, love, and the dignity she deserves. Unquote. There was no confirmation whether the postponement of Young's funeral was in preparation for a second autopsy. A post-mortem conducted by 3 foreign forensic pathologists found that Young died by drowning. Since the revelation of the initial autopsy results, there have been persistent calls for foreign investigators to come to Guyana to probe the circumstances surrounding the girl's death and the discovery of her body in the swimming pool at the Doubleday Hotel Tushin, East Bank, Essequibo. Meanwhile, it has been confirmed that Dr. Dexter TODD, a certified forensic expert, is now the lead attorney in the Adriana Young's case. Following the autopsy of Young, Dr. TODD stressed that the cause of death and the manner of death are not the same and that the police must investigate the manner of death. Attorney TODD continued that, quote, for while the cause of death was medically determined, the manner of death is for legal classification. Was drowning accidental? Was the drowning a homicide? What are the circumstances surrounding how the death occurred? A toxicology report is needed. A diatom test must be done. And did the decomposition affect the accuracy of the analysis? Dr. TODD questioned. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Meanwhile, in the wake of the tragic death of 11-year-old Adriana Young, Guyana has experienced a wave of unrest, prompting widespread concern from both local authorities and the international community. The incident, which has gripped the nation, has now drawn calls for peace from top diplomats. Find out more from Tiana Cole.
More than a week after the death of Adriana Young, an 11-year-old whose autopsy confirmed she died by drowning, several foreign diplomats issued public appeals for calm and unity in Guyana. Her death sparked grief and outrage, leading to widespread protest that escalated into looting, road blockades, and fires across Georgetown and beyond. In a series of similarly worded statements posted on social media, the diplomats urged citizens to express their grief and frustration peacefully and within the law. United States Ambassador to Guyana Nicole Terrio, in her statement, stated, quote-unquote, I express my heartfelt condolences following the tragic death of Adriana Young and share my deep concern and sorrow over the crisis and civil unrest that have occurred in Guyana, she stated, quote-unquote, I encourage all Guyanese citizens to remain calm, voice their concern through nonviolent means, and adhere to the rule of law. Looting and destruction of property are harmful to all. I strongly urge all involved to commit to peace as the government works to resolve the situation. British High Commissioner Jane Miller also expressed sorrow and extended condolences to Adriana's family. Quote unquote, I am confident that the right way forward is always through legal and non-violent means, she stated. Canadian High Commissioner Sebastian Seguin echoed similar sentiments, urging Guyanese to remain calm. Quote unquote, I encourage all Guyanese citizens to voice their concern through non-violent means and to adhere to the rule of law, he stated. Head of the European Union delegation to Guyana, Ambassador René van Ness, also called for peace. Quote unquote, I strongly urge all involved to commit to peace as the government works to resolve the situation, he said. These calls for calm come amid rising concerns by security forces and government officials about attempts to incite unrest during Adriana Young's funeral proceedings, which was on Monday postponed. The Ministry of Home Affairs has also issued an appeal for peace and responsible behavior during this sensitive time. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Stay with us. There is more news ahead. Thanks for staying with us here in the HGP Nightly News. Antonio Day now informs us that lead attorney Dexter TODD in the Adriana Young case has strongly criticized the police for mishandling the matter and is adamant that numerous procedures were not followed. TODD says ill-advised.
According to forensic expert and lawyer Dr. Dexter TODD, the crime scene in the Adriana Young case was a complete setup for a failed case. Attorney TODD is now the lead lawyer in the deceased 11-year-old's case and has highlighted several errors in the police handling of the crime scene, where the preteen's lifeless body was discovered at a hotel pool.
You have that discrepancy now, and so who is now going to be able to determine that discrepancy?
Since the police did not take the required corrective action to quell the crowd, Dr. TODD says that proper procedures were ignored. He argued that the contamination of the scene compromised the investigation from the very beginning.
All those persons that you're seeing on the crime scene, immediately, that should have been curtailed. That should have been curtailed. Those persons should have been allowed to move back. The thing about forensic investigation is that you have to be able to preserve the crime scene.
TODD also discussed the body's state and procedure of removal.
There should have been a forensic doctor who would visit at that location, and so that important samples are taken at the scene immediately.
Meanwhile, Paul So, former Assistant Police Commissioner and Chairman of the Police Service Commission, had his 2 cents on the case.
If you fail to do anything which is your duty as a member of the force to do, that is a neglect. So, and then there's a process. You have to go through a process and have these people face some type of disciplinary trial if it is a dismissal.
I'm Antonio Day reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
A wanted bulletin has been issued for a nursing assistant over false claims following the autopsy of Adriana Young. You'll have more details in this report.
The Guyana Police Force GPF on Monday issued a wanted bulletin for Tiana Serena Lewis King, a nursing assistant attached to the Ministry of Health and stationed at the Georgetown Public Hospital Corporation, GPHC, who in a voice recording claimed she was instructed by the Minister of Health, Dr. Frank Anthony, to attend Adriana Young post-mortem examination. According to the police release, Attorney at Law Darren Wade, who was representing the family of the late Adriana Young and was present during the post-mortem, confirmed that Lewis King was not present at the examination. Additionally, Dr. Caleb McClogan, who also represented the family's interest at the autopsy, told investigators that he recognized the voice in the circulating recording as that of Lewis King, whom he knows as a nurse aide, as a graduate from the class of 2024 nursing program. He also confirmed that she was not present during the post-mortem examination. Meanwhile, Minister of Health Dr. Frank Anthony has publicly denied the allegation that he authorized Louis Kings to be present at the event. Quote unquote, "I do not know this person. I have never met or spoken to her. If she was present, she was not there on my behalf." The minister explained that the post-mortem was videotaped in keeping with protocol and a log of all individuals present was recorded. Louis King's name, he confirmed, does not appear in the official record. Anthony further stated that he is consulting legal advisors and is considering litigation against Louis King, describing the incident as a deliberate attempt to tarnish his reputation. Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
As Guyana joins the rest of the world in observing World Press Freedom Day 2025, President Irfaan Ali hosted a media brunch on Saturday at State House, where he called for fairness, integrity, and professionalism.
President Irfaan Ali, speaking at the Media Day brunch held at State House, commended journalists for shaping public opinion, guiding national conversations, and holding leaders accountable. He called on media professionals to report with fairness, accuracy, and integrity. The president emphasized that the media's role in public education is critical, stating that when news organizations value integrity and accountability, they become partners in national development.
This is an important year. I expect you to report fairly, honestly, openly, on our elections. I expect our population, the consumers of the information reported on, to be responsible.
He further urged journalists to uphold ethics of journalism through balanced reporting and rigorous fact-checking, which he said is key to fostering an informed and united society.
I urge every journalist in Guyana to hold fast to these principles and to do their job with integrity, courage, and professionalism.
The president noted the importance of this year's World Press Freedom Day, highlighting its relevance to Guyana and democracies worldwide. He said, "Free and independent media play a critical role in protecting transparency, human rights, and democratic values."
It is a cornerstone of our democracy, society, and a fundamental human right that allows our citizens to speak freely, to access information, and to engage in public discourse without fear or reprisal.
He also cautioned against the misuse of press freedom, stating that some actors seek to distort news for selfish or malicious purposes.
It is also important to remember that despite our commitment to press freedom, there are forces at work that wish to exploit this freedom for narrow, selfish, and often malicious ends. The press must be vigilant against becoming a tool for the perversion or distortion of news.
During the event, several media professionals were honored for their outstanding contributions to the media landscape. Guyana improved its ranking on the 2025 World Press Freedom Index, moving up to 73 out of 180 countries compared to 77 in 2024. This year's theme is, quote-unquote, "Reporting in the Brave New World, the impact of artificial intelligence on press freedom and the media." Tiana Cole reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
You're watching the HGP Nightly News. Stay with us. There is more news ahead. Welcome back to the HGP Nightly News. We tell you now that the government's decision to introduce the eagerly awaited oil spill bill in Parliament has drawn criticism from petroleum engineer Dr. Vincent Adams, who has called it a political gimmick.
At a press conference on Friday, Dr. Vincent Adams, the AFC's oil and gas expert, voiced skepticism about the government's newfound commitment to full liability coverage for oil spills, calling it a sudden epiphany given his party's long-standing advocacy for this measure.
And let us not forget that MP Patterson had tabled a bill in Parliament for unlimited liability that, not surprisingly, didn't get anywhere. They decided to concoct this foolery of change of heart with a sham bill.
The bill, officially named the Oil Pollution Prevention, Preparedness, Response and Responsibility Bill of 2025, was introduced last week during the 102nd session of the National Assembly. It includes provisions that establish unlimited financial liability for ExxonMobil in the event of an environmental disaster. It creates a modern, comprehensive legal framework to prevent oil spills, strengthen national preparedness, ensure swift and effective responses, and hold those accountable and responsible for any resulting damage to the environment and environs of an oil spill. According to Adams, the government's action is similar to the coalition's initial stance while it was in power. He recalled that the previous administration had mandated that ExxonMobil provide full liability coverage for oil spills, a condition that was initially accepted and signed by both the company and the government. However, the petroleum expert accused the People's Progressive Party Civic of abandoning this commitment upon taking office in 2020. The petroleum engineer pointed out that two citizens, Frederick Collins and Godfrey White, filed a lawsuit against ExxonMobil and won because of the state's ongoing indulgence in the company's request for full liability coverage. The High Court ruled that ExxonMobil must provide an unlimited guarantee for oil spill coverage and criticized the government for failing in its oversight responsibilities.
Judge Kissoon documented that private conversation resulted in a draft agreement between the PPPC government and Exxon for a cap on liability. The judge, in no uncertain terms, ruled that the draft agreement was erroneous and self-serving, and private discussions cannot circumvent an EIA or an environmental permit.
Despite the court's ruling, the government joined ExxonMobil in appealing the decision, seeking to overturn the judgment at the Caribbean Court of Justice, known as the CCJ. Adams maintained that there are significant doubts regarding the sincerity of the statements issued by Vice President Bar Jagdeo on the matter.
For the title of the bill, you can start, Mr. Jagdeo, with inserting that all operators shall comply with the law, including complying with the EIA requiring producing oil within its safe limit.
The Alliance for Change member noted that it's hypocritical for the state to table the Oil Pollution Prevention, Preparedness, Response and Responsibility Bill of 2025 when Exxon is exceeding the production safety limit.
Exxon is allowed by the government, produce way above the safe limits, enhancing the risk for an oil spill.
I'm Antonio D reporting for the HGP Nightly News.
Incoming president of the Guyana Teachers Union, Coretta MacDonald, has vowed to continue to hold the government's feet to the fire. The resumption of automatic GTU dues is high on the agenda. Here is more. The focus will be on having the People's Progressive Party civic government resume the automatic deduction and remittance of membership dues. Incoming president of the Guyana Teachers Union, Coretta MacDonald, told reporters on the sidelines of the Labor Day March that the GTU is unforgiving of the government for stopping the automatic deduction and remittance of membership dues.
That act, like I said, is unforgivable for the teachers. We will never forgive them for doing that, because that act, its main aim is to crush the union and to offer zero representation to our teachers.
The incoming GTU president said that the stopping of the automatic deduction and remittance of membership dues is a core issue for the nation's teachers, and that such an act has dire consequences for the staff of the Guyana Teachers Union.
You know what will happen at some point if we don't put measures in place? At least 15 families, because we have 15 employers, 15 families are going to be out of bread if we don't put systems in place. In addition to that, those who are receiving pension from us, they are also going to be put on the breadline.
MacDonald vowed to continue holding the government accountable in the best interest of the nation's teachers.
Today is the day that we are going to recommit towards uniting this movement and ensuring that this government gives the kind of respect that workers ought to be given across this country, we would see the restoration of collective bargaining in its true sense. And as a united movement, we will demand the stopping of harassment in our workplaces, discrimination, and we call for equal opportunities for every single member of the working class.
The Ghana Teachers Union will head into elections later this year. Its long-serving General Secretary, Coretta MacDonald, is the only nominee who accepted the candidacy for the presidency when the nominations for this position closed. Travis Chase, HGP Nightly News. Your regional news is up next. Stay tuned.
Good evening and welcome to Monday's edition of the Regional News. Brazilian police over the weekend thwarted a bomb attack planned for Lady Gaga's historic concert that drew over 2 million people to the Copacabana beach in Rio de Janeiro on Saturday. The civil police of Rio de Janeiro state, working in coordination with the Justice Ministry, said the plot was orchestrated by a group promoting hate speech and the radicalization of teenagers, including self-harm and violent content, as a form of social belonging. According to the Rio City Hall, 2.1 million people attended this concert of the American pop icon. The suspects were recruiting participants, including minors, to carry out coordinated attacks using improvised explosives and Molotov cocktails, the police said. The Justice Ministry said that recruiters identified themselves as members of Gaga's global fan base, known as the quote-unquote Little Monsters. The operation was based on a report by the ministry's Cyber Operations Lab following a tip-off from Rio State Police Intelligence, which uncovered digital cell encouraging violent behavior among teenagers using coded language and extremist symbolism. Moments after 32 members of our government were sworn in at President's house, and with most of her cabinet seated behind her, Prime Minister Kamla Persad-Bissessar announced that our first priority would be to dismantle the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority, TTRA. After declaring that it is time for quote-unquote boots on the ground and for her government to get to work, Persad-Bissessar then announced, quote-unquote, we have to reform a lot of pieces of legislation, and the areas of priority will be one, to repeal the Trinidad and Tobago Revenue Authority Act, she said, to cheers from the crowd. The legislative framework governing the TTRA was passed by an Act of Parliament in December 2021. The TTRA was the former PNM administration's attempt to restructure the state's tax collection regime and was intended to replace the Inland Revenue Division, IRD, and Customs and Excise Division, CED. And it was touted as a major asset in generating funds for the state. U.S. President Donald Trump has confirmed that he had offered to send U.S. troops to Mexico to help Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum combat drug trafficking, an offer Sheinbaum disclosed on Saturday and said she had refused. Trump, speaking to reporters aboard Air Force One as he returned to Washington from Florida, said he had made the offer because the drug cartels were quote-unquote horrible people who had caused thousands of deaths. Asked if he was disappointed that she had turned down the offer, Trump said, quote-unquote, the president of Mexico is a lovely woman, but she is so afraid of the cartels that she can't even think straight. Sheinbaum on Saturday said she had rejected Trump's offer because, quote-unquote, sovereignty is not for sale. She said the two countries could collaborate, but Mexico would, quote-unquote, never accept the presence of the United States military in our territory. Thank you for watching. I am Tiana Cole.
Adriana Young's funeral postponed. Dr. Dexter TODD is now the lead attorney. International community urges peace amid rising tensions in Guyana. Nursing assistant wanted by the Guyana police force over false claims over Adriana Young's autopsy. And Dr. Adams criticizes state over oil spill bill, dubbing it a sham. Those are our major headlines. For these stories and more, please go to our website. It's www.hgptv.com. I'm Travis Chase. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.